This is the Drumbrute Impact. And this drum machine is so much more than just a downsized, smaller version of the original Drumbrute. So first off, I just want to make and play some cool beats that I made on the Drumbrute Impact so you can hear what it sounds like, and then I'll get into the specifics, all the new stuff, and we'll do an in-depth look at it. The Drumbrute Impact will possibly be, for drum machines, what the Microbrute is for synths. Inexpensive, accessible, versatile, with a lot of sound shaping possibility considering the price and the small form factor. Besides the literal new color scheme, one of the new functions is the color mode. With a press of a button, you can change the character of a sound, and each sound is changed in a different way. I'll demo this further down in the video. There is also a new distortion unit. It's a master distortion, and compared to the original Drumbrute's filter, this adds a lot of sound shaping possibilities and can definitely beef up the sound. There is also the addition of an FM voice, and this is brilliant because this also adds more variation to the sounds that are possible with this machine. The workflow is very familiar to anybody who's used an original Drumbrute. It's similar, if not exactly the same as on the OG Drumbrute, and it should also be easy to grasp if you have played with, say, a BeatStep or a BeatStep Pro. The Impact sports 10 instruments, 10 independent tracks, as well as 4 individual outputs. And I should mention that I really dig the new color scheme here. It has kind of a Lambo feel to it, but I'm pretty sure that opinions will be divided on this topic. So next up, I want to take you through what I did and show you some of the new features, as well as talking a little bit about the workflow. So we're in a pattern here, pattern number 3 in bank number 4. And the first thing we want to do is put down a little kick drum here. So go into step mode here and we enable the kick. You can add a little hi-hat. And we can add a little snare. If we want to quickly create variation, what we can do is go to the closed hi-hat, press current track, and increase the randomness, which means that we add random notes here and there, depending on how much you increase it. One thing that's good to notice here that the open hi-hat here shares circuitry with the closed one. So you can hear that it shares a voice with the closed hi-hat, so it cuts it off. So let's remove some of them. Now next up, I want to show you one of the new features. It's the color mode. So by pressing Shift and color here, we're now in color mode. So let's listen to the kick drum here. So that is the kick drum with the added drive. The color adds drive, and this is different for each of the sounds. So for the kick, it adds drive. For the snare, it adds body. The snare number 2 creates more of a clap sound, adds decay to the toms, cymbal tone. It doesn't affect the cowbell. You got the closed hi-hat, decay, and open hi-hat. It creates different harmonics, and for the FM drum, it's a different pitch envelope. So it's just adding and changing up the sounds in new ways depending on what sound you enable it on. But here's the kicker. What you can do now, look here. So you can see these blue notes here. We're in step mode and we press shift and color. Suddenly they disappear. This is because we can step sequence the changes to the color. Let me see here. So we have notes here on 11 and 15. So let's enable it. And let's put down notes here on 11 and 15. Let's remove them. Next up, let's do the kick. Let's enable color and let's change the color for some of the beats. We could even do something like this. So let's put down some more kicks in between here. Let's enable the drive. Let's remove some of these notes here and let's just apply it to these notes here. And you can apply the color globally as well, so let's do that. So now it's applied globally on the entire beat on every track here. Next up, let's take a look at the accents. This is nothing new for this drum machine, it's the same on the Drumbrute, but what's different is that you suddenly have different layers of sound. So you can have, say, the normal sound, you can have the sound with the color enabled, you can have the accent, and you can have accent and color enabled. This, of course, creates more flexibility in terms of sound design on this device. So let's go into a track here, and let's enable the accent. Let's put an accent over here. So let's add color to 13, but not 16. So we have accents on 13 and 16, but no color on 16. So it creates a little bit of a variation there. And we could put down just one more note here. The next new thing that we want to check out is the FM drum. The FM drum here is an interesting addition to the Drumbrute Impact, which also sets it apart from the original Drumbrute. So what you have is level, carrier pitch, decay, FM amount, and mod pitch, as well as the color effect. And the color effect for the pitch drum enables or disables a pitch envelope for the drum. The carrier pitch is basically the pitch of this drum. The K is quite self-explanatory. The FM amount, frequency modulation amount, basically sets how much frequency modulation is applied to the carrier. With the color mode engaged. And the mod pitch changes the frequency of the modulator. As you can hear when I turn this up, we pitch it up as well. And I'm no FM expert, but you can make some pretty cool sounds with this. So record an FM drum pattern, try to tweak it so it sounds a little bit more like a synth, added some swing to the current track as well as some randomness for random notes, and this is what it sounds like. So the last new thing is the distortion unit. It's applied to the master output, it's not applied to the individual outputs. The color is applied to the individual outputs, but not the distortion unit. So let's apply it to the beat and listen to how it changed up the sound here. So now it's at max. When it comes to the actual control of the individual sounds, it's a little bit more limited than on the original Drumbrute, but there's still plenty of ways to change up the sound. So for example, on the kick here, we have the same controls here with level as on all the tracks, and we have pitch. And we have decay. And if we enable the distortion, you get a really fat sound. With a little bit of a clickiness to it on top. And we can also change up the sound, of course, with the little drive here. So let's do that. Next up, we have the snare, level, tone, or snappiness, and decay. And we can add body to the sound like this, and with some distortion. The second snare doubles as a clap. We have tone and decay. And then we have the toms, high tom and low tom with one pitch here. And the color mode here is decay. So when we enable it, we get a little bit more of a decay here. And this is actually the same for both. So if you enable it for both. This is different though for the cymbal, which has a cymbal tone here on the color. So you can hear that it changes up the sound quite a bit. Now this isn't applied to the cowbell. The cowbell is, I think it's the weakest sound on this synth in particular, because you don't really have that much options to change it up. And then we have the closed hi-hat here, and you can change its tone. Then we have the open hi-hat, and the color for this is harmonics, added harmonics to it. Changes up the sound quite a bit. You basically have the decay to play with. And then of course we have the FM drum that I just talked about. So what do I think about the sound quality of this drum machine? Well, I think that the kick is really nice, very usable, kind of big and boomy. You can apply the distortion to it, the master distortion. You can apply the drive to it with the color mode. Very usable. The snares, they still have kind of this limited range where they are really punchy, but you can definitely tweak them and make them work for sure. I think that the cowbell, well, cowbells? Yeah, I really don't know about cowbells. And for the snares, I also think that the master distortion can help a lot, kind of beefing up the sound of the snares. The toms, they sound okay, but here the original Drumbrute has one up on the Impact because you have individual pitches for the toms on the OG Drumbrute, which I miss on the Impact. And speaking about the original Drumbrute, I didn't really like the hi-hats on it, so I think they've really stepped it up with the Impact. I think the hi-hat sounds a lot nicer, it's easier to make them fit in a mix. And I'm glad that they skipped on the original Drumbrute's sap sound and instead went for something like the FM drum. The FM drum is actually really usable. You can make kind of bassy tones with it, kind of plucky tones, you can make kind of percussive elements, you can make bass sounds or bass drum sounds, which I showed you previously. So some final thoughts. Who should buy this drum machine? Well, I think that just like with the Microbrute, there are two categories. So you have the more advanced users that can still find a budget drum machine or a budget synth like the Microbrute interesting because of the kind of the pure analog tones, because you can use the individual outputs to shape the sound further. So that's one group who could enjoy it. And the second group is fairly obvious. Anybody who's starting out looking for an inexpensive drum machine, because what you have here is a really nice sequencer with a really nice sound palette of analog sounds. Now, it's not for every style, it's not for everyone. So if you're not into the demos you've heard me play here, this is probably not for you. However, I think there's enough flexibility to fit most electronic music styles, and I think for a beginner in particular, the sequencer is very hands-on, it's fast, fun, it's easy to understand, so it's a great entry-level drum machine for sure. So this was my review of the new Drumbrute, the Impact. If you have suggestions for other videos you want to see, leave a little comment down in the comment section. And if you want to support the work I do here, I work with YouTube part-time nowadays, you can always go to patreon.com/bowbeats and become a monthly supporter over there. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a super pleasant day.